Yeah.
Sean? Yep. All right, sweet. So my name is Brandon Sensenich. I'm on the career serving team. I co-lead men's Bible study with Nate Dagon, and I'm also part of outreach, which has definitely been challenging this year, but God has a way all the time, so just have faith in Him, and He'll reach out to anybody on campus and beyond. Yes, so I have a PowerPoint with my testimony. So really the main focus really is the car for the first part of my testimony. So that's in 2001 Toyota 4Runner. That was my first car. It's probably back in 2015, 2014 I got it when I was 16. So my faith background starts, I was raised in the Catholic Church. I knew who Jesus was, but I didn't fully be the type of person who had to see it to believe it. I needed that. I was very analytical thinking and science-based thinking. So being raised in the Catholic Church, you kind of just go through the motions in a way. I always thought, I'll just go to Sunday school because my parents said I had to. So I just listened to my parents and never really knew the true reason why I was going there and going to church. So in the Catholic Church, you start Sunday school when you start elementary school, really, and you go until you reach 8th grade, and then you are officially confirmed into the Catholic Church. So I was confirmed in 8th grade, and then I remember when we were confirmed at a Catholic church camp, they always said, okay, so what are you going to do next? And I just thought, okay, I'll just go to church every Sunday with my grandma and I'll be good, In the Catholic Church, they believe you either go to hell, purgatory, or heaven. And honestly, when I was going through those motions in the Catholic Church, I was always like a good person in school. I was trying to be kind to everyone and follow the golden rule. And I always thought, I never read the Bible. I never really talked about Jesus in my family at home, which is a loving family, but we never really talked about religion. It was always kind of awkward to bring it up. And I was not really scared to, but didn't feel comfortable bringing it up or had a reason to bring it up growing up and stuff. So we never, like my family, which is my father, mother, and my little sister, we never prayed before meals. We didn't even really think about doing that. It just never occurred to me, really. So that was, it wasn't tough growing up. My family, a loving family, an awesome family. We just never really talked about religion in a deep way or understood, why Jesus was there. I knew He died on the cross, but I didn't really know why. I just what we were taught in the Catholic Church. So let's see. And I never really was looking for any Christian clubs in high school. I went to public school in Lancaster County, and there was no really religious organizations or clubs in the public schools and stuff, and never, they always say separation of church and state. So that's pretty much how I grew up going through high school and in public school, which I didn't love. So, and then I was super excited once I graduated high school in 2017, in June of 2017. And I started my first semester here at Penn College, and it was awesome. My longtime friend since first grade came here too, and his religious background was definitely, his parent, he didn't even go to church. He really didn't. He knew who it was, but he was definitely like me, more analytical based, really had to, see it to believe it. And he just never grew up in the church really at all, not even the Catholic Church, just no church at all. So he was definitely leaning, I wouldn't say he's atheist, but he's definitely like leaning towards like no religion or why there should be. So I started my first semester here in August of 2017, and I roomed with my longtime friend since elementary school, and I wasn't looking for any Christian clubs. Like my first semester here in 2017, I had no clue crew even existed. And honestly, in my heart, I kind of scoffed and laughed at those kind of clubs. Like I was like, what's the reason for Christian clubs? That just, I didn't have a reason why to go or look for one. Even Christian music, I would kind of laugh at it. Just, that's not for me. And I wasn't singing at all, and just was really like cold-hearted, if you want to say that. Like just not open-minded to those types of things. So, and I got involved, like my roommate, my best friend, he, growing through high school, went through a tough patch. His parents were divorcing and stuff, and we didn't see each other much in high school. So he got into the party scene in high school, was partying, drinking at colleges, and, just going, I think he said he was smoking weed and just sex and all that stuff, and just going down the wrong path. And then when we got to college, he was kind of easing back on what he was doing in high school, but he was still drinking and stuff. And in high school, I never drank. I never did any of that stuff. And he kind of got me into it my first semester because I kind of thought, okay, I'm in college. That's what college kids do. They drink and they party and they go down that route. So, and I kind of wanted to fit in. I was trying to impress this girl my first semester, who I really liked, and she was in the party scene. So I just, okay, I guess I got to join the party scene to, be with her. So I got down that path, and it was, in the moment, it was like, okay, this is kind of fun. And then it got to a point where it got not bad, but just really, what's the reason? But I still was doing it. And that was in the fall of 2017, my first semester here. So, let's see, can smell some. So that's that's the car I drove up in 2017 to college, and I love that car, honestly. Oh, okay. There we go. So I had a great first semester here in 2017, fall 2017, and I went home for winter break. I was like, okay, this is going to be a pretty good life. College life is pretty good, as I thought. Didn't really look for any religion, didn't really think about it. So on December 9th, 2017, I was in Lancaster County. It was snowing that day, and I'm a big hunter, and I want to go hunting that day because it's really easy to see a deer in the snow. So I was driving over the Normanwood Bridge, which is right behind me. It's a very narrow bridge, and it's a 2-lane bridge, so one lane going one way, the opposite lane going the other way. So, and it was, in the past, there had been accidents on that bridge. It gets really windy, and actually, there was a tractor trailer driving over it when it was really windy one day, and it blew over. And thankfully, it didn't blow over the bridge, but it fell into the opposite lane, not on any other cars, but it just flipped over because of the wind. So it's a very dangerous bridge. You can see how narrow it is from the passenger view right there. And that's pretty much where I was when I was driving over it. I was about a quarter of the way down and felt myself hit black ice and lose control. And there was an F-250 truck coming down the opposite lane, and I could feel myself rearing into that lane. And I was like, oh no, don't want to go head-on collision. So I did the exact opposite of what you're not supposed to do when you're driving over ice. I slammed on the brakes and swerved as hard as I could to avoid the truck. And I lost total control, and I just remember feeling the impact. Like, boom, it just happened so fast. I didn't even realize the airbags went off. I just remember, okay, looking around, okay, I'm still alive after the crash. And then I remember 2 other guys that were, I guess, were in the truck, came over, running over to my 4Runner, which I'll change the slide to show you what it looked like after the crash. So if you remember what it looked like before the crash. So the F-250 hit the passenger side and smashed it in. which looking back, that was a God sighting because if it hit the driver's side, I wouldn't be standing here right now. Yeah, so. And then from the impact, the injuries I had 2 broken legs. So when the guy came over to my passenger side of my car, he kind of like talked to me and he was like, "Oh, you okay?" I said, "I think so." I was conscious and stuff. I was able to talk. And he said, "Oh, can you get out?" And I tried to get up and move, and my legs felt like jelly. I said, "No, I think I broke my legs." So he somehow grabbed me and pulled me out of the car. And another guy came over to help me. And I remember he sat me on the side of the bridge, and I just remember staring out in the distance, like, "Wow, what's going to happen to me next?" Like at that point, I didn't have faith in the Lord, so I didn't really was thinking about the Lord at that time. I just remember staring out in the distance, trying to stay conscious and stuff. And I remember the ambulance coming and then putting me on the ambulance, and the one guy said, "You have a open fracture, compound fracture." And I was like, "What does that mean?" He said, "That means your bone pierced your skin." And I just remember, okay, don't show me because I'm starting to stay conscious. And that was the quickest ride to the ambulance to Lancaster General Hospital, which is about 30 minutes from Holtwood, which is where that bridge was. So it was the quickest ride. I remember going in, once we got to the hospital, them wheeling me in the stretcher, and a nurse coming up to me and said, "You have a small brain bleed." And at that moment, that's when I thought, I might not make it out of here. Because my grandfather had passed away from a brain hemorrhage. And I was like, once you say brain bleed, that's not good. So, and even at that point, I wasn't thinking about the Lord. I was just thinking about myself, really, and saying, "Oh, wow, I'm going to miss my family and stuff because I may not make it out of here." So I had, the next one is the x-rays of my broken legs. So that picture on the left there is my left femur, which I wish I had the other picture of my right femur, but I didn't take a picture of that x-ray. That actually right there, that fracture isn't the worst fracture. My right femur was completely shattered. It looked like a puzzle pieces. And I don't know how the surgeon put it back together, but somehow he did. And it was, my aunt said it was a 7.5 hour surgery to put the metal rod. That's my left tibia. So you can kind of still see a fracture even with the rod on it. So it wasn't completely healed at that point. But yeah, just looking back now, it's all glory to God to have a surgeon like that. My aunt said he was a younger guy, so he could stand for 7.5 hours because vitally I was doing pretty good throughout the surgery, and I just was able to get through that surgery, thankfully. But it wasn't easy for my parents, and I hate that I had to put my family through that pain of not knowing if I was going to make it. And the next part of my medical, that's just one of the medical sides. So those fractures are so severe that there's fat cells in your bones, and the fat cells escaped into my bloodstream and went straight to my head. And that put me in a coma for about a week. So, and I remember that first night in the hospital, everything, they asked you questions like, "When's your birthday?" My birthday's July 30th. Who's the president? It was President Trump at the time. And I remember answering that right the first time. And then the second time, I don't have any recollection of or even answering any questions. In my mind, at that point, later that night, on Saturday night, I just remember seeing this bright light and thinking I was at my funeral. That's what I remember. And then in reality, well, not really reality, but from like the outside, I guess, they were asking me the same questions. "When's your birthday?" And instead of saying July 30th, I said July 17th. And they're like, "Okay, maybe something's up. So who's the president?" they asked. And I said July 17th again. And they're like, "Okay, something's up here. He's not mentally there at all." And then I went into Code Blue, which is pretty much life support, because those fat cells were going through my bloodstream and messing with my brain, which was caused my vital organs to really drop really low. So that's what I looked like at that point later that night, just on life support. And every time I look at that, I was like, wow. My parents never took that picture. My sister did, because they just hated to see me like that. And I just, looking back, I feel so bad that I put them through that because they didn't deserve that at all. And nobody does. So that's me later. So I was in a coma for about a week. So that's probably day 2 or 3. I was really swollen. I don't even recognize myself because they were pumping fluids in me. I had a feeding tube in my stomach, a trachea, which was a breathing tube in my neck, and at that point I could open my eyes, but all I could see was blurred vision, like I was in a dream. And I remember I thought I was in Florida for some reason, and I remember I could see my grandmother because she's right over me there, but I didn't know, no recollection of where I was at or why I was there. I completely lost that recollection of my surroundings, but I could still see the people. And so, yeah, I'd say that's probably day 2 or 3, I think, of when I was in Lancaster General Hospital. And that's me starting to come out of it. So you can see my face, I'm not that swelled up, and I have my eyes open. And at that point, I could see my surroundings. It wasn't blurry. So I remember seeing my dad holding my hand there, and I was holding this towel really tight because the doctor said I would go through what's called storming episodes, where I sweat profusely, just crazy, and really tense up my fist as tight as I could. And they said that's whatever the coma is doing to my brain, that's the reaction I had. So throughout the coma, that's what I had. And I remember that, just sweating so much and not know why I was sweating. So that was probably my last day at Lancaster General Hospital in the ICU. And then that's me. I got transferred to Hershey Rehab Hospital. And I knew where I was at. Well, I didn't know where I was at, but I could see clearly, and I couldn't talk. I couldn't really do anything, but you can still see I had the towel in my hand, meaning I was still in that coma state where the stormy episodes would occur. And every time I look at that, I just don't even recognize myself. It looks like there's a demon in me, really. Every time I look at it, that's what I think of. And that's my little sister there. She's awesome. She actually grew up in the Catholic Church, but broke away before I did, and got saved before I did. And one of the God sightings I have with the day of the crash is I actually asked her to go hunting with me that day, and she said no. And if she would have said yes, I don't even want to think what would happen, because she would have been the passenger side. But looking back, it was like, God said, nope, I just want Brandon's attention here. And he definitely got my attention. So that's his little sister there. And then that's about week 2 at Hershey Rehab. And I was starting to come out of it a little bit. I remember that day because that deer I had harvested in 2016, and it took a year for it to get mounted, and it kind of like spoke a memory in me, and I was like, yes, I remember that. And I kind of had forgotten about it, but it was kind of a sign of me starting to come out of the coma, and I remember smiling a little bit and actually started crying a little bit. Like, wow, I remember that thing. So it was just a good memory from the past. And then that's my family there, my mother in the red shirt. And then the guy holding my hand is actually my second cousin. It's my dad's first cousin. And that's his wife to my left there, and my little sister, and my dad. That's actually on Christmas Day. And I remember that because I wanted to go home so bad. Because at my grandma's house, we always have a tradition, Christmas Eve, we always go over there. And this actually was Christmas Eve. And I couldn't talk at that point, but I remember thinking, I want to go home, but I couldn't. And so my second cousin, they're saved, and they're really strong in their faith, and they would come every Sunday after church with donuts to Hershey Rehab to, give me a good cheer and stuff. And I just remember that, and I don't forget that. So, yeah, that's the first room I was at Hershey Rehab, which is, I guess, pretty much where I couldn't move at all. I was still I was going there for physical therapy, speech therapy, and orthopedic therapy at Hershey Rehab, which those therapists were awesome. And that's pretty much my last week. And that's my family there, my dad's brother, my uncle on the left there, my cousin Rachel, my grandmother. This is actually for her 70th birthday we were at. It's on January. My dad behind me, my cousin Nate, my sister Lauren, and my cousin Emily right there. And they're all saved. That side of the family. So just they were bringing the gospel feel in to me in the hospital. And I didn't even realize it until after I got out of the hospital and went home. And that's in March, I think. So I was just starting to walk. And so I have my sister there, and that's me when I first got home. And just you can see I'm fully back to normal facially and like mentally. I was back to where I was at. And I remember at the point where I realized I was there, or why I was there, because when I couldn't talk for the first couple of weeks, but then once I could talk, my dad asked me, "You know why you're here?" And I said, "No, I don't know why I'm here." And he said, "Do you remember you were in a crash?" And as soon as he said that, I could remember everything, like I just described. So whatever the coma did to my brain, it is weird. It just was so scary. Nobody has to go through that because nobody deserves that. But it was God's plan for me, and really this is where it starts, the chain reaction. So I always say the crash was the main event that started the chain reaction to coming to Christ. So later that summer, I fell back into the same motion, going to Catholic church every week and stuff, just going through the motions again. I was right back to where I was before the crash. And then I got back to school later that fall in 2018 and fell right back into the party scene because I was rooming with my roommate from high school, like I had in the first semester. And I was like, okay, I'm going to just do what I was doing before because I liked it. And then I remember it was September. I had just failed my first engineering exam and was really depressed, really down, really questioning why I was there, and just was in a bad place. And they were handing out little mini New Testaments, this little mini New Testament from the ACC the week before, and I had gotten it and just kind of put it on my desk and said, "Oh, I'm going to read that sometime." Well, next week I failed that test. I read it, and the verse I went to, how it's broken up is it's like verses for stress and stuff. So I went to that verse and I went to Matthew 11:28. There we go. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. And as soon as I read that, my stress was gone. I could feel the Holy Spirit come over me. And just like, wow. Like, my stress was gone. It was crazy. And then later that night, my roommates had left. I just by myself, and I came to Jesus in that moment. I can't remember the exact day, but I know it was in September of 2018. And then since then, I found Crew. I don't know if anybody of you guys know, he graduated already, but Jason Brote actually told me about Crew. And I said, I'm going to try this, because I shared in my first half of the testimony, the crash and stuff, and like, you might like this organization. And so I went to the one worship night and was like blown away by the Holy Spirit in that moment, and was like, wow, this is a great community. I want to join. And since then, I continue to grow my faith, becoming a leader in Crew, in the servant team, and really I'm getting plugged in at the City Church, which is a non-denominational church here in Williamsport, which I highly recommend people go to. And then now I'm plugged into a church in State College, a Presbyterian church. Nate Tavon goes there, and Grace Presbyterian Church, and another great community, surrounded faith believers, just awesome community, and the right kind of community, not the party scene community where they don't really care about you and your life, really. So, looking back, and my sister told me this when I came back later that break in 2018. She said, I was praying for you for 5 years that you would come to Christ. And I was like, wow, that's a God sign right there, because I did. And it made me believe in him even more. Because at that point, I was such on a faith high. Like, wow, how could I live for 19 years and not realize? And unfortunately, it took me in the crash to smack me in the face. Like, wow, I could have been gone like that. And not knowing Christ, I wouldn't have been going to heaven. And she's like, you'd be going to hell. I was like, wow, that's true. Like, I like that about her. She's pretty blunt. Like, you were going to hell. And I was like, you're right, I was. And because there's no purgatory. So, if you're out in the crowd tonight or in the other room and you don't know the Lord, it's not too late. Accept Him tonight, if because you don't know. Tomorrow could not be there for you. And if you didn't know the Lord, you'd be going to hell. And I'm just so blessed that I found through and the churches that I got plugged into, because I was lost, but now I can see. I love that Amazing Grace. It's just like everything about it. Like I said, if you don't know the Lord, it's not too late. Accept the Lord tonight. And so you don't have to go through events like I went through, unfortunately, and put my family through hell, honestly. And it was just, I always say, it was the worst day of my life, yet it was the best day of my life, because it's what started the chain reaction to coming here and to coming, more importantly, to Christ. And I'll never forget that day and coming to Christ, because I was missing out. And I was blind and could not see, but now I can see. And it's Amazing Grace. So, yeah, so if you're a person questioning like I was, take a leap of faith and know the Lord tonight, because He is awesome. So, thank you.